Operation Interflex. Elite Ukrainians are taught how to erase Russians, and at the same time Ukrainians already were able to deactivate 188 Russians in a massive attack against Bakhmut. And besides this, Crimean logistics is totally devastated right now, and China backstabbed Putin. But more about all this in just a couple of minutes. What's up, investors? Here's the Russian dude, and let's get right to the point and talk about some ridiculous Russian propaganda. So, we have this guy who is working as the portable air defense system, and most likely he is just laying on the bench surveilling Ukrainian drones. And what makes this particular air defense system so unique is that the maintenance costs are extremely low, only just a couple of bottles of beer and maybe like 5 shots of vodka. But sometimes, unfortunately, this system can be so fragile and malfunction and go into sleep mode. And I mean, I think you can already guess what can happen with this guy if he is noticed by his superiors. Let me know in the comments what do you think, because the correct answer is that he will go straight to jail. And also on the positive note, the next week is going to be my birthday, so I want to do another free giveaway for you guys. So just please make sure to like this video and subscribe to my channel for the updates. You can also follow me on Instagram for the further details. The link is down below. But okay, now let's talk about this Operation Interflex, then we'll go to the south of Ukraine and talk about devastated logistics in Crimea, before finishing everything in the east of Ukraine and this absolute annihilation of Russians in Bakhmut. And so yes, this so-called Operation Interflex is the UK-led training program for elite Ukrainian soldiers to make them the most effective fighters in the close combat, specifically in the cities, using heavy machinery, such as, for example, Challenger 2 tanks. And what makes this particular training to be so powerful is that once again, it is trained to be doing combat activities within the city. And just think about which Ukrainian cities needs to be liberated. One of them is Bakhmut, another one is Melitopol, and then potentially some even cities in the northern parts of Crimea. So you can only imagine how useful it will be for those Ukrainians to pass that training. Then we have the statement from the United States of America, which already officially approved the first batch of Abrams tanks to Ukraine. And speaking more about tanks, recently an unnamed country purchased 50 more Leopard 1 tanks, which will be also later sent to Ukraine. And well, Russians obviously have their own tanks as well, and Ukrainians try to deplete them from this resource as much as possible. So recently they also acknowledged that they increased the production of their anti-tank missiles Stugna-P by 4 times. Just a couple of last things before we go to the south, and so right here in this video from Latvia we can see that they decided to increase their border protection next to Belarusian border. And ultimately, recently China once again backstabbed Putin, who thinks that China is still his ally. But apparently with actions like this it is becoming less and less true. And so what basically happened is that last weekend China participated in Saudi Arabia meeting about the Ukrainian peace plan, and Russia obviously was not invited. One of the main topics of that meeting was 10-point peace plan by President Zelensky, and reportedly China was very much in favor of this peace plan, looking as much as possible to find a peaceful resolution to this political and military conflict. But okay, and now as promised, let's talk about the situation in the south of Ukraine and why Russian logistics right there is already completely devastated, before switching our attention to the east and to Bakhmut. And so yes, once again, critical bridges that Russians have been using between Crimean Peninsula and Kherson region were once again attacked by Ukrainians. One is located in Henichensk, located right here, and another one is a bridge located in Chonhar. Both of these bridges were already attacked in the past, and this time, as you can see, specifically bridge in Henichensk is pretty much unusable. And like mentioned previously, these bridges are located approximately right here, and this this is exactly where Russians were using these roads to bring the reinforcements to the south, also including to Zaporozhye region. But now, since this route is no longer available, they will have to take a way longer western detour going through this way, which first of all will significantly increase the time Russians will have to spend to relocate their resources and human force, and secondly, it will get much closer to Ukrainian front lines, giving Ukrainians much more chances to attack these military convoys. But it might not even matter at all, because if Ukrainians can already reach targets located all the way right here, it basically means that the entire northern part of Crimean Peninsula and pretty much the majority or even all of Kherson region and some of Zaporozhye region are already under fire control by Ukrainians. And obviously, besides bridges, Ukrainians continue to use extremely cheap drones to destroy extremely expensive Russian military equipment, including tanks. And as you can see from this video, some Russian soldiers were sitting on the outside of this combat machine, so you can only imagine what happened with them when the drone collided. The full video, if you want to see it, is on my Patreon. The link is down below. There is still 1 week of free access. But wait, there is more, because Ukrainians were also able to intercept and destroy a Russian attack helicopter called K-52 located near Robotyne. And speaking about this settlement, Ukrainians were also able to destroy an assault group of Russians along with their tank next to this city. And as a result of all these combat activities, Ukrainians were able to liberate a little bit of land to the east of this area, as you can see from this map. At the same time, a large artillery firing position of Russians has been destroyed by Ukrainians located in Priyutne, and then as we take a look at this map once again, we can see that Ukrainians liberated some of its territories to the east of Staromayorsk. Right, and now let me give you a similar quick update from the east of Ukraine, and first of all, according to the report by the Institute for the Study of War, Russians continue to try to do their offensive along Kupiansk, Svatove, Crimea front lines with no reported gains so far. They are also attacking along Avdiivka and Donetsk front line, no success there either, and also majority of combat activities were reported on the border between Zaporozhye and Donetsk regions. At the same time, Ukrainian artillery was able to destroy a pretty big command post of Russians located to the north of Liman Pershy. And yet another big artillery firing position of Russians has been destroyed in Preobrazhenne, located to the north of Svatove. And once again, as we refer to this map, we can see that it was actually Ukrainians who liberated some land along Kupiansk-Svatove front line. In addition to that, yet another extremely successful use of a cheap drone to destroy an expensive equipment of Russians, specifically self-propelled Howitzer M100, has been successfully done by Ukrainians, as you can see from this video. And just overall, in the last 24 hours, Ukrainians were able to destroy 2 control points, 3 personnel focus areas, 5 artillery units and 2 radio-electronic warfare equipments of Russians. But unfortunately, the response of Russians is something as you would imagine them to do. They basically destroyed yet another residential building located in Pokrovsk, Donetsk region. Unfortunately, there are casualties and a lot of injured civilians. But most importantly, Ukrainians do not decrease their counter-offensive pressure, they only increase the pace, specifically in some areas, such as for example Bakhmut. But unfortunately, as you can see from this video, this city at this point is already in complete ruins. The city where allegedly used to live more than 70,000 people now looks like this. Russians claimed it as the liberation. And so yes, first of all, Ukrainians were able to destroy yet another artillery unit of Russians, located to the northeast of Bakhmut. They also continuously send both reconnaissance and combat drones to reveal and attack positions of Russians, including the most uncommon ones, such as for example, as you can see from this video, some Russians were hiding or doing some research activities or just trying to view the land from this allegedly telecommunication post. And overall, according to the representative of Ukrainian military Serhiy Cherivatey, Ukrainians are now fully seizing the initiative and advantage on Bakhmut front lines. And as a result of one recent massive and extremely successful attack, a very big command post of Russians has been destroyed, eliminating 65 Russian soldiers, wounding and injuring 120 of them, and capturing 3 prisoners of war, which basically means in just this one single attack, Ukrainians were able to disable 188 Russian soldiers. And I mean, you can only imagine what's coming next, because there is no more this superior Wagner in Bakhmut, who was only Russian military unit able to achieving any kind of success. Ukrainians are advancing to the north and to the south of the city, and soon they will be able to start their descent and start encircling the city, fully, most likely, liberating it. Those Russians who are still remaining in Bakhmut, they were not rotated for an extremely long period of time. They saw their friends perish in these battles. They are under constant artillery fire, so I think without a doubt, it is, to say the least, their morale is extremely low. And once Ukrainians they switch in the full offensive mode and recapture Bakhmut, most likely this will happen very fast. This very well can become the turning point in this stage of the counteroffensive. And just please, please guys, if you don't want to miss it, can you please, if you don't mind, like this video and subscribe to my channel. It does help a lot. Thank you so much. The absolutely best way to support my work is through my Patreon. You can also become my channel member, unlock some channel perks, or simply use a PayPal link. Everything can be found to the right and down below. Thank you so much for your attention, товарищи. Please follow me on Instagram. Beware there are scammers in the comments, and see you tomorrow.